So last time we discussed about strings. Today we'll start with next data type, that is list. Okay. How to define a list? I will specify variable name and I will assign a values in a square brackets. If I have to check the type, which function I'll use? Okay, so this is a list. I will define it in a square brackets. 10, 20, 30. I'm adding 3 values and I'm just taking type of it. It's showing okay, this is of type list. Few things about list. So list is a mutable data type, which means Python will provide me methods to add, update, and delete. Second, lists are ordered. If I say another data type which is ordered, still not. Just a second.
No. Yeah.
How about now,
Yes.
Manjit?
Yes.
Is it visible now?
It is visible. Probably if you can type something, I can see whether it is moving.
If I say any data type which is ordered, which means it should support indexing and slicing. Okay. So let's discuss these 2 points. First, indexing and slicing. Okay. Is it visible now, Manjit?
Yes.
Alright. Okay. So this is my list which contains 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Okay. Now indexing and slicing will be exactly similar as a strings. So I have 2 indexes, one which will go from left to right. Okay. So if I say print l of 0, I will get the first element. So one index, it will start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. Another index, it will start from right to left. So it will start from -1, -2, -3, and so on. So in case of a string, the index is of characters for individual character. So when I say s is equals to string, while indexing, I get an individual character. So when I say s of 0, I'll get e. When I say s of -1, I'll get g, right? In terms of list, your index will be of individual elements. So when I say L of 0, I'll get first element, L of 1, second element, and so on. So one index which will go from left to right, and another from right to left. So -1, -2, -3, and so on. So if I say -1 here, I'll get 60. So same as a string, every element will have two indexes, one with reference from left to right and one with a reference of right to left, and you can use either of them. Okay. Again, if I specify something which does not exist, it will throw me an error that index not found. Next is slicing. So slicing is nothing but if I want a few elements from this list, not the entire list. Okay. So instead of using for loop, I can use slicing. So from this list, let's say I only want this 30, 40, 50, and 60. What is the index of 30? Okay. Colon. I want to go till end. Okay. So I can specify start, I can specify the end. Again, end is not inclusive. Okay. Let's take example. I want to start from 0 and 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'm giving 3. So now 3 is the index of 40. But end is not inclusive. Okay. So it will go, actually it will give me elements from 0 to 2. So that's why it is giving me 10, 20, and 30. Okay. So different end is not inclusive. Start is inclusive. Okay. So different variations. It's okay if I do not specify the start. It will defaultly start from 0. If I say 3 and if I do not specify the end, it will start from 3 and it will go to end of the list. Again, if you want alternative elements, so I want every second element from this. Okay, so now it will give me 10, it will skip 20, it will give me 30, 40, skip 50. Okay, and this is my stride. If I want reverse, it's the same as my strings completely. So I specify start and end using single colon. Third colon is a stride operator. Yeah. So defaultly the value is 1. Okay. That's why defaultly if I do not say anything, it will actually print me every character. Okay. Now if I say 2, which means from this entire list, I want every second element. Okay. So So that's why it will start from 10 and it will skip one element and it will print 34. So this stride also decides your direction also. So if the stride is negative, it will start traversing your list from right to left. If your stride is positive, it will traverse your list from left to right, but it's negative, it will go from right to left. Okay. So let's say I want this 40, 30, 20, 10 in a reverse order. What should I say? So I want this 40, 30, 20, 10. Minus 2. So here 4. I won't start from 40. If I put first blank, it will start from 60. Right? So minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. Okay. I want till end. So just leave it blank. Important thing, this should be minus 1. Okay. Then only it will traverse from right to left. If I make it plus, okay, so it will take this minus 3, so minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So start from here and defaultly it will go on the left to right side only.
So we can give here like let's say minus 5 after minus 3 or minus 5. It will go till 20.
Okay. My 20 will not be included now.
And,
Okay. So my end is included. Okay. So these are the variation for your slicing. First variation, I will specify the start and the end. Second, if I do not specify the start, that is also fine. It will defaultly start from the start of your list and it will go till this end point. Again, this end is not included. Second, next variation, I can specify the start and do not provide the end. Then it will start from that particular index and it will go till end of the list. There is a third argument that is called as a stride. So that stride, if I say minus 1, it will print my list in a reverse order. So if a stride is positive, it will traverse your list from left to right. If it's negative, it will go from right to left.
again, explain 70 and minus 3.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I said minus 60, right? What is the index of minus 3? Minus 1, minus 2, minus 40, right? So it's giving me output only 40 into 40 and 30. Okay. Now what is a minus 5? Minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, right? But my end is always not inclusive, right? When we try in terms of left to right, okay, if I say 50 index, right? If I specify the index of 50, it will go till 40, right?
Yes.
Similarly, if it's from right hand side, if I'm specifying till this point, if I specify the index of this point, it will actually go from this to 30. So that's why I'm starting from -3. So start from 40, 30, but I'm actually giving the index of 20, but as end is not inclusive, so it's giving me only.
And then what is the significance of -1 then?
Okay, so this -1 will define the direction. Okay, so now if I say this, now if you see -3 is this, and this is 20, right? So I'm saying +1. If the 1 is positive, it will always go from left to right. It cannot traverse in a reverse order. So even if you provide indexes which tells that go from right to left, okay,
Still it will go.
it will give me a blank list. Okay. So slicing will never throw you an error. In case of a string, it will give you a blank string. In case of a list, it will give you a blank list. In case of a tuple, it will give you a blank tuple. Okay. So indexing throws an error if you specify the wrong indexes. Slicing, it will give you a blank list in terms if you specify the wrong index. Okay. Any queries? So I said lists are mutable, right? So let's discuss operation to add, update, and delete the element into a list. Okay. So for add, we have these methods: append, extend. If I want to add a single element, I will say L dot append. Okay. So this method will add a single element into your list. Again, let's go back to the ID. So I'm defining the list. I'm printing the ID. I'm appending one element. Now check the ID of it. Okay. So it will modify your list at the same memory location. Okay. That's why my lists are set to be a mutable data type. Okay. Again, there is no restriction on what data you are adding to your list. So I'm now saying L dot append. Okay. So in this list, I can add any type of data. Now again, what append will do? Append can add only single element. Okay, and it will defaultly add at the last position.
One element.
One element. We cannot add multiple elements. Okay, so if you see your list are something like your stack in your C, that whatever element you're adding will be added as a last element. Okay, so it's a last in first out kind of fashion it works. So I can add a single element. Now let's try adding multiple elements. Okay, I'm trying something like this. It will say append text exactly one argument, you are passing 3. Okay, so you can pass any value, but it should be a single value. Okay, so in this case, I'm actually passing a list inside a list. Okay, I said l.append Python. Okay, it added Python to my list. Next append operation, as it says that it will take only exactly one element. Okay, so I added all my elements into a list, and now I'm appending that list. Okay, but now you can see that is not added as a multiple element, it is adding that entire list as a one element, right? So append whatever you're passing, it will be considered as a one element and it will add it as it is to your list. Okay, let's try to access this list now. Okay, what is the index of this element? Okay, so 6 or -1, I can use either of them. L of -1. Okay, so this is my list. Now I want this 300 from it. 0, 1, 2. Either I can say 2 or -2. Okay, now like this you can go till any level. Okay, so I can add a list inside a list. Inside that list I can add another list and I can go to any level. Okay, just to access that you will use access something like your matrix. Okay, so how I accessed it? First go to the main list. Okay, I said -1. Okay, so it has given me this entire last element. So from this I want this 300. Okay, now ignore your entire first list, just calculate the indexes of this particular list. Okay, so this is the 300 for this list, just specify the index of that. Okay,
We can do mixed ones, something like -1, and here we can put 3 elements, right?
so every element will have two indexes. Okay, 0, 1, 2. Okay, so this is my append method. It will take exactly one element as an argument. So I can add only one element using append. Whatever I'm passing, be it the entire list, it will add it as it is. Next, extend. Let's try the same example with extend now. What is the difference? Mhm.
Individually, it will be
Exactly. So how extend will work? Append whatever you are passing, it will consider it as a one element. It will add as it is. Okay. Extend whatever you are passing, it will iterate over it, and it will add a individual elements. Okay. Now, what I mean by iteration exactly? Let's try this. We have seen this in case if I try append Python, it added entire Python as a one element, right? Okay. So it's like it's traversing this entire string using a for loop, something like this. We can consider. So it is iterating character by character, and each character it is adding as an element to your list. Okay. So that's why when I tried with a list, it will start iterating over that list, and whatever elements I have. So this is a separate element, separate element, separate element. Okay. Again, extend also take exactly one argument. Okay. So that's why if I try this, okay, it will say extend takes exactly one argument. Okay.
Individual element is basically input is on the list.
Not list only. Okay. So data type must be iterable. Now when I say iterable, it can be list, it can be tuple, set, range, anything. Okay. It cannot be my integer and a float, basically. Because my 100 is 100 only. Python cannot traverse it as 100 separate. Okay. So difference between append and the extend. Append whatever element you are passing, it will add it as it is. Extend whatever element you are passing, it will iterate over it, and it will add an individual element to the. Okay.
So why 400 is not included there?
In extend, yeah. I guess I commented out that's why that's well, okay.
So with that logic, it also should have 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Why it did not fetch 1, 2? Because it's passing back.
Which one to see?
The one 10, 100, 200, 300, 400.
This one?
100, yeah.
I actually commented this part.
Ah,
So this is commented on, only this part is. Okay. So I just appended 50. After that, this is the only part which is executable. Okay. So if you see extend also, it will add an element at end. Okay. What if you want to insert element in between? Okay. So L dot insert 0,000. First argument is the index where exactly I want to add element, and second 1000. Again, insert will also take only two parameters. Okay. So index work exactly like append with index. So if I pass a list here,
Insert works exactly like
append. Okay. So if I pass a list, it will take this list as it is and it will add it at that particular position. So insert will not iterate over that list and add it as an individual element. It will add it as a single element. Okay. So these are my add methods.
there is nothing to add multiple.
No. So the reason we don't have is if I add a single element, I have to move all entire list to the by one place to the right hand side, right? This is already an overhead. So if I add element at 0th position, it is actually adding at 0th position and everything else is shifted by one place to the right hand side, right? So if it allows multiple elements to be added, it's like a extra overhead while shifting all the bits, right? So append, extend, and insert for adding. Okay. Let's see update operation. What do I have in a list? Print. Okay. I have something like this. If I want to update this 20, what is the index of it? So all I have to do, I have to just say L of 1 is equal to okay. So I do not have any inbuilt method to perform update operation. It's just I'll be doing this with the help of indexes. Okay. Let's discuss delete operations. Let me think manual. All right. First operation, t dot okay. So when I say pop, defaultly which element is removed? Okay. So that's why the list are set to be a stack data structures that whichever element is added at the last position will be removed first. Okay. So this is called as a last in first out. So pop method will return you the element which was removed from the list.
But it's not necessarily we need to capture.
Okay. So you can work on this, that if you have element, you can add it back, you can do some calculation over it. Okay. So it will return that particular element which is removed. So pop method, I'm just saying L dot pop. I'm not specifying what to remove. Right? So defaultly it will remove the last element and it will return that value. So I can capture it into one variable. Okay. So I'm saying R is the variable in which it will give me a value which is removed. So when I printed my L, you can see that 50 is not in the list. Okay. And then I printed R. So it shows 50. So the element which is removed from the list will be returned by this particular pop function. Okay. Now you can specify index also. If you want to remove specific element. So if I say pop of 2, what it will remove? 0, 1, 2. Okay. So this is my list. The removed element is 30. Okay. Again, all these delete methods are for removing the single element. Yeah. Okay. So pop will remove your element on the basis of index. If I want to remove the element on the basis of values, check. Again, if I have multiple 20, so pop will remove on the basis of index. So if I say -2, there will be only single index having value -2, right? But in case of a remove, I can remove the element on the basis of values. So now if I say 20, but if I have multiple 20, just to make it more clear. Okay. So from left hand side, it will start searching for that element and it will only remove the first occurrence of that particular element. Okay. I cannot remove multiple elements at a time using pop, remove, or any delete operation. Okay. So pop function to remove your element on the basis of index, remove to remove an element on the basis of value. Another difference, pop will return you the element which was removed. Okay. Remove will not give you the element which is removed from your list. It will just directly remove that element. That's it.
And if that value is not present, then
It will throw error. Yeah.
then with the pop, the index is not present.
Exactly. Okay. Let my L exist. Let's try here again. index out of range. Okay. If you want to remove all elements, yeah. So we have inbuilt garbage collector for that also. So whenever there is a variable for which reference is lost, it will remove it automatically. Okay. So L dot clear, it will remove all the elements, but you will still get the list. So you will get an empty list from this. For this.
Good for the first one.
Okay. If you want to remove your list completely from the memory also, okay. So this delete operator will work with any data structure. So I'm removing this list completely from the memory. So that's why if I after try to access it after deleting it, it will throw me an error that name L is not given. Okay. So these are my add, update, and delete operation over a list. Let's discuss a very important concept and very common error. So please have a look here. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I have one list. I'm saying L2 is equals to L. Okay. But do you think ID will be same or different? These are two lists. Different or same? Same. Okay. Okay. So when I say L2 is equals to L1, actually my ID is same. That's why now if I do this and okay, so I'm appending element at L, I'm printing second list now. Okay, so both lists will get modified. Okay. Okay, so this is one of the common mistake that by mistake if you just assign L2 equals to L for a list, you are actually referring to the same address. So the thing which I actually want that if I'm just want to create one copy, and if I modify this copy, it should not affect this one, right? So that purpose is not served. Okay. So if you are looking for something like this, you have to see L is equals to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. L2 is equals to L dot copy.
In the previous case, either of the one we can modify.
Exactly, it will modify both of them.
Suppose for the first case, it will use L, then L2 will also use it.
Wow, that's interesting. Let's try this. I don't think so. So I'm here. Let's delete L and L dot append no print L, no print L. Okay. Do I have anything else? No. Yeah. So L2 is still there. Okay. So L2 will not be deleted. Okay. So now if I print L, obviously, okay, it's in the same reference. Okay. So let's come back to that again. Another interesting point. I'm saying A is equals to 10, B is equals to 20. Okay. It kept that into reason. I'm saying A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. These are the same elements in my list, right? So now if I print ID of L, if I print ID of L of 0 and ID of B, okay? So opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, closing. Alright. So I'm printing ID of this whole list, ID of this first element, and ID of this variable which is holding the same value as your list. Okay. So for my entire list, this is the ID. For my first element, this is the ID. But for my A also, this is the ID. Okay. Reason in Python, it will store the values first. Okay. So when you are creating the list, there will be separate values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. It will have its own memory location. And at a particular memory location, that 784, this location, it will store all the references. So at 784, at first index, it is storing this 392. At second location, it's storing reference for this 20, and 30, and 40, and so on. Okay. So at runtime, it will just check the values that which are the variables referring to these values, and it will have the same memory location. Let's try this. I love 0, I love 1, 92, 104. They will not be there. Okay. So reason I'll try to explain it once we cover all the data structures. Okay. So clear? L dot copy. What is the use of that? Okay. So don't make these mistakes. This is one of the common mistakes, and it is a bit hard to debug also what exactly you're doing. So programmatically it looks correct that I'm saying LT equals to L1, but it is a problem at your memory level. Okay. Few more operations. Okay. So this works as your exchange. Okay. But this is not exactly the extend. Now what is the difference between this and your extend operation?
We can add a single variable, not iterable.
No. Then that will not work. Okay.
String we can add.
Here? No.
Works it only list. Display You get concatenated.
Exactly. So what is the difference between this L1, L2 and your extend method? If I do extend also, I'll get the same answer, right? If I say
But we can use string.
we can use
String.
we cannot do that. Okay. Another difference, when I say L dot extend L2, I am actually modifying the original list with all these values plus these values. Okay. Here I'm not modifying any list. Here I'm just concatenating two lists. So if I want, I can assign it to the same list, or I can assign it to the different variable. So that I have to decide. Okay. But when I say L dot extend, by defaultly I am modifying the original list. Okay.
Yeah, we can use it. I equal to L.
So if I say star 5, it is actually multiplying that, so it's giving me that list that number of times. So all the elements will be repeated 5 times here. Okay. Here I cannot do L2. Okay. So this is not a scalar multiplication. Okay.
Move order of those.
So we do not have any inbuilt method for that. So you can do that using NumPy. Okay. Last two methods. Okay. L dot index. I will specify the number. It will return me index of that particular element. So 20. Okay, location is first. If I specify something which does not exist, okay, count. It will count the number of occurrences of that element. Yeah. So we are giving it the value. It is returning me the index. Count. It is returning me the number of occurrences.
By default, index is from left to right. It doesn't do negative.
No.
Any option.
No, negative index never it will show. It will never show. If you want to sort your list,
In the previous case, where they are saying negative multiple times. What index?
again it will give you the first occurrence from left to right. Okay. So in case of a string, we have function called find, rfind, and index. Now index is the same. It will check for that particular character and it will return me the index from that. Find again same. Only difference, if element does not present, it will return me -1 instead of error. But I do not have any such replacement for a list. On the other hand, rfind is there. So what rfind will do, it will search for that particular element from right hand side. Okay. But again in list, I do not have such method. So I have only index and the okay. L dot sort. So it will defaultly sort in ascending order. So L dot reverse. If you want to reverse your list,
Reverse is
reverse
indexing.
Yeah, yeah.
Short is like
Sort in ascending order. Let's try some problems. I have two lists. I want single sorted list with okay. So I only want sorted unique elements and then a single list. Let's try this one.
any method or we should have to do for
So what logic you will use? So I want single list from this two.
first we sort it
Mm-hmm.
and then pick each element
Mm-hmm.
and then check.
But before that, I want a single list, right? Extend right. If I print it, I have only single. I have to remove the duplicates. Okay, so in this third list, I only want unique elements.
There are too many multiple ways you can just put it. One is like you want to use the same list itself, you can use the delete option. Otherwise, you want to say use new list, you can take the first character, put it in there.
Alright, for value and L. Okay, so I'm iterating over a list. In each iteration, I'll get one element at a time. Okay, I have this L3, which is blank. I want to put all the elements inside this list.
Might use one more variable.
What? So this is my variable. You want index
Okay,
also?
okay.
Yeah. So it will give me one element in this. So one at first iteration, I'll get this one, second one, third, fourth, like this. I have to check if this value is present in this list or not. If not present, add. Else, skip.
If then in L3, or not in L3, I would say.
Okay.
Not in L3, then comment. Comment.
Okay. Any queries in this? Try this one. Okay. So this is my matrix. So I have a list inside a list. Output I want.
L2 equal to S of element.
So I'm taking this L2 equals to blank because we discussed the both cases. L2 dot extend
Value.
okay. So in each iteration I am getting one list. Okay. So now if let's say print one. Okay. Uh, so in each iteration I'm getting one list. Okay. So what I'm saying, define one list, and into that list just keep on extending the new list which I'm getting. If I try this, now I am not able to get what exactly is the output.
Can you see is there any L2?
Exactly, it looks like the same, and that's why it didn't show error also, and that's why there was no error also.
We cannot expand and non
It's direct, exactly. Okay. So what I'm saying that I have a list which contains multiple lists again. Okay. So so if I iterate over it in each iteration, I will get one list, right? So I'm defining a new list, a blank list. So whatever list I will get, I just want to extend it. So extend will take a list as an argument. It will iterate over it and it will store the individual elements. So now if I just print my L2 here, okay. Let me comment this out. Okay. So in first iteration in L2 it added 1, 2, 3, which is my first list. In second iteration it added 1, 2, 3 was the original list. At the end it again added 4, 5 and 6. Okay. Next iteration it added 7, 8 and 9. So this is the final list. Okay. So we can try for this problem as a homework along with the assignments. I have seen, but now I want 1, 4, 7, 2, 5, 6, and the 3. There is no comma. Oh, there will be comma.
between the list.
Yeah, same list. It just I want to switch, so it should be first index, first element of all three lists will be my 1 row now. Yeah. Okay. Should be the first. Okay, in second list it should be the second element, and then the third element. So we'll take a short break of 5 minutes. Okay, then we'll start again. So this is lists. Next we'll start with tuples. So to define a tuple, specified in a parenthesis. Okay. So this is how I will define my empty tuple. That's just empty parenthesis. Okay. So what is tuple? So tuple is exactly similar to list. The only difference, tuples are immutable, which means there will be no methods to add, update, okay. Tuples are ordered, which means Python will maintain the same order in which I'm storing the tuple, and that's why it will support indexing and slicing. Okay, so I'm defining a tuple t with these values. I'm just printing it up. Okay, tuple is immutable, which means there will be no methods. So even if you check help, you will see there are only two methods for your tuple, that is count and the index. There is no append, extend, there is no other method. Okay, so So only two inbuilt method, count and the index. So indexing slicing, let's discuss. It will be exact similar. If I say t of 0, I will get the first element. If I say t of -1, I will get the last element. So I will have two indexes, one which will go from left to right, again one from right to left. So it will go from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on, and reverse. Okay. Again, it's a similar. If I specify something which does not exist, I will get an error. If you want slicing, again exactly similar. Something start from 1, go till end. So 0, 1, and this entire. Okay. So just while defining, I'm specifying it as a in a round brackets. Okay. But for indexing and the slicing, we have to use square brackets only. Okay. So the syntax of indexing and slicing is same for a string, for a list, for a tuples. So wherever you need a write protection on your data. Okay? So let's say you're working with a user inputs. You don't want someone or your program to modify it. Okay, you don't want to provide a base to modify it. So in that case, you can go with tuples. Okay. Another way, whenever you're working with functions. So what is function? I will pass some input. That function will give me some output, right? So whenever you pass some input to your function, that function will prefer passing it as a tuple, so that your function cannot actually modify what is the input for that. Another use case is whenever you return a value. Okay, generally you can return a single value from a function. But if you want a multiple values to be returned, you can create a tuple of it and you can return as a tuple. Okay, so that we will discuss when we see functions and all. Okay. Yeah, we'll see this type conversion. Python internally uses tuple a lot. Okay, so we have discussed enumerate. Ask them to wait for till 11:30. Okay, so so when I use enumerate, it will actually give me two values. Okay, alright. So when I defaultly iterate over a for loop, it only gives me element, right? 10, 20, 30, 40. I'm not actually working with indexes. Okay. Now if you want index and the value both, I can use this function enumerate. So enumerate will give me two values. One is index, one is value. Okay. So here I am actually accepting that into two separate variables. But actually, if you see enumerate returns a single value. Okay. So actually, enumerate will traverse each element and it will return a element, its index and the value as a tuple. Okay. So this is what output of a enumerate is. Okay. So now if you want all the indexes, I will just say here 0. I'll get only index. As it's a tuple, I can use indexing. if I want all the values, okay, so when I define a tuple, the value is fixed. Now let's try to modify the value using the way we tried for a list. Okay, so once I define it, I cannot change the value. Okay, so I cannot modify the value of it. So once I'm defining, so it will be fixed value. So I can do either indexing and a slicing, or there are only two methods. First, t dot index. So it's exactly same as we see in case of a list. It will return me the index of a first occurrence of that particular element. Count will return me the number of occurrence of that particular element.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's try this and let's work on the ID. So, okay, first we'll discuss index count and then we'll discuss. So, I'm saying index 20, so it will return me the index of that particular element. When I say count, this will give me the number of occurrences of that particular element. Okay, exactly similar to lists. Coming back to this, tuple and 20, there is a list 100, 200, 300. Okay, now 0, 1, and 2. Okay, so this is my list. Now I'm saying t of 2 dot append 600. Okay, so it will actually allow this operation. Okay.
Is it because it has a different memory?
Yeah, yeah. That is the reason. That is the reason. That is the reason.
No, it's ID of the before.
Oh, ID, I don't think so. Don't think so. ID of T, ID of T. So that should be changed. No, C. Same ID. Yeah, this is allowing it. So it looks like if I add a list, I can modify inside the tuple. So it will work for any mutable data type then inside the tuple.
Same thing when we're defining the list. Side list, we're just keeping the tuple.
Because for tuple, I don't have methods. I did. this 10, 20, 30, 100, 200, 300. Now either I can access it, but I do not have any method to insert element here. If you want to do conversions, so this is my tuple. I want to convert it back to a list. If I have a list, I want a tuple. So that's all we have for tuples. So as it's immutable, we don't have any much more methods to cover, only two input methods and the indexing and the slicing.
Operators, these are the operators which
Tuple,
equals to and
which one? Yeah, this will work. Yeah.
Copy don't work with copy function.
Yeah, we have copy also. No, I don't think we have copy also. We don't have copy also. 30, G1, first, G dot, copy. Oops. So if you see the help, if you just say print EIR of tuple. So the only method I have this, that's it. So these are all private methods, internal.
With how we can achieve this copy. Suppose if we have to copy one
Equals to will go 20, 30. It will store in a different memory location.
is different.
Okay.
No, this is
Okay. Equals to T. It's still the same. Okay. Yeah, it looks the same, but I cannot modify it, right?
but if you
But if I'm using a list, yeah, that's an issue then that's an issue. That's an issue then. Yes, for sure. Okay. Something like this. Now I'm saying T of 0, 1, 2. 2 dot append 50. Yeah, this is the issue then.
You change the
Exactly. So now it's changing both the tuples, and I do not have a copy function for this. So for now, then you only can say that avoid adding list inside a tuple. That can be the only solution. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of problems. Okay. Next topic, dictionaries. So dictionary will store values in the form of key and the value pair. Okay. So this is example of empty dictionary. So I'm just saying D is equals to and the curly brackets. Okay. If you want to store the values inside this, I will be storing in the format of a name, key, and the value pair. Okay. So I will specify the key colon. I will specify the value. So this is my one key and the value pair. So key and the value pair will be separated by a comma. Okay. I can have multiple key value pairs like this. Exactly. Yeah. So my dictionaries are also called as my hash maps. Okay. Let's discuss few rules about dictionary. First, dictionaries are mutable. Okay. Second, okay. So first thing, it is mutable, which means there will be methods to add, update, and delete. Second, unordered. So this is the first data structure, which is unordered. Okay, which means the order in which you are storing the values, it is not maintained, it is not stored in the same order. Okay. So internally, Python will apply hash algorithms on your keys. Okay. And based on the output of that particular function, it will store your values inside a memory. Okay. So that's why you cannot guarantee that the order in which your values will be stored. That's why dictionaries will not support indexing and the slicing. Okay. Next, keys should be unique. Okay. So I cannot have a duplicate keys inside the dictionary. We will discuss this again. And next, my keys should be of immutable data type. Okay? Which means the allowed data type for keys are integer, float, string, tuple. Okay? It cannot be a list. So this is my dictionary. I said it should have only unique keys. Okay. So it will overwrite with the next value. If I say d of 0, that is my indexing, right? It will throw me a key error. Okay. Now what is key error? So no, actually I just modified the existing type statement. So I'm trying to access it using an index list. So I said d of 0. Okay. So I got a key error 0. Okay. Fine. In dictionaries, the only way to reach your values is through your keys. So if I want this value ABC, the only way is instead of the index, I will specify the D of key here. For now, just remove this duplicate one. Okay, so that is the reason when I actually said D of 0, it considered this 0 is a key and it tried to search for the key with 0. So name not 0, age no 0, email not 0. That's why it threw a key error. Okay. So the only way to access your value is your keys. Vice versa, not true. I cannot get a keys using my okay. Now let's see add, update, and delete operations.
Can we use each as a value?
Yes. So value can be anything. Okay. But if I try the same thing with the key, uh,
Can you do that?
it will say unhashable type list.
Can you have you say 0 10 can we use one of the 3 of
Sorry, I didn't get it. So if I say this, D So the concept is simple. Whatever I'm passing, it will consider it as a key. Now, okay, this is the key. It will try to see exactly this thing is present or not. If not, this is a key. That's it. Okay. Let's see add, update, and delete operation. So if I say D of like yeah, so you can do this using. So if I say D of 20, I'm getting these two values. Now if you see, this is the whole thing giving me that answer. Now I will apply my indexing concept here. The value. Okay. So because this whole thing is giving me this entire list. So first job, just get this entire list, and on top of that, just apply your indexing. If I just specify D of and a new key, okay, and specify a new value for that, it will check if this key already present or not. If this key is already not present, then add this particular key into your dictionary and assign a value to this. If I try to repeat the operation, my concept says my key should be unique. Okay, so this works as an update operation. Okay, so I do not have any methods to add a key value pair. Okay, so I have this. If I just specify D of new key and the value, so it will add this particular key to your dictionary. If I again specify a key which already exists, and if I assign a new value, so it works as an update operation. Okay, it doesn't matter. So sequencing you can try if your dictionary is larger. You can say you can see in a print statement also it's not printing in the same order. Okay. I have two more functions. So we have seen if I want a value, I can say D or name. This will give me value, right? Now I'm seeing D dot get name. Okay. Looks same. Okay. So D dot get, if I specify a key, this will also give me the value. Now what is the difference between this approach and this function?
maximum two arguments.
So this get method, I will specify the key for it. Okay. If key is present, it will return the value. If key not present, it will defaultly return me none. Okay. Or I can specify what exactly I want to be returned. So I'm saying return me a string which will say key not present. Okay. So if I just print D of ABC, this approach will give me an error that ABC is not present. That's why it will give me the key error. On the other hand, get method, it will not throw me an error. It will return me a message that okay, your key is not present in your dictionary.
In any type,
Yes. Okay.
in both cases, we can store a value in another.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing. Do you think get and set default are same? So when I did this, what is the difference? So get method, it will just check if your key is present or not. If not present, it will return you none. Okay. On the other hand, set default will check if your key is present or not. If not present, it will add that particular element to your dictionary and it will assign a default value as a none. Okay. And it will return your default value. Okay. Now if you want to set it to a particular default value, I'll just separate it by comma and set some value to it. Clear difference between get and set default? Another very simple problem. I want something like this. Okay. So my keys should be the integers. Let's say range starting from 1 to 20. And the value should be its square. Okay. So I want a dictionary. So values will be numbers from range 1 to 20. And sorry, keys will be the numbers from 1 to 20. And I want values as its squares. Square of your key. Okay. So first thing I need to generate numbers from 1 to 20. What should I write? Okay. For value in range, let's say 1 to 21. Okay, so now I get one element at a time. So from this, I actually have to do something that whatever element I will get, I want to make it as a key, and I want to store the value, right? Yeah. Of the okay.
There is
Okay. How about without set default function?
only the key value.
Mhm.
D of value equal to value. It will either append or
Okay. So either you can go with your set default method. So what set default will do, whatever value you are taking, it will check if this already present or not. If not present, it will add it to your dictionary and it will set one default value to it. Okay. Or otherwise you can see that if I have to access any key, so my concept is what my add operation is D of that particular key. If that key does not exist, it will add that particular key to your dictionary and it will store some value, which is your passing. So I'm making a square of.
in both cases we need equity.
Yeah. Okay. So this comes under my add operation, set default method. Update operation, I do not have any separate method. I will just specify D of key and I will set a new value for it. Right? So the one which we have discussed for delete operations. Hop. Clear. Okay. Do I have a dictionary? No. So this one still exists. Better than that. Okay. I have dictionary something like this. If I say D dot pop of O, okay, so I will specify the key. It will remove that particular key and the value pair from your dictionary and it will return you only the value. Okay, so you are specifying the key and it will return you the value. So this pop item, it will remove any element from your dictionary. Now you do not have any control over this method. So this is similar to actually a pop operation, but ideally if it's order data structure, it will remove the last element, right? But in dictionary, it looks like at this moment it's removing the last, but this is not, this cannot be the case always. Okay? If your dictionary size is large, you can see that it's actually removing the different number, any value. So it will arbitrarily select one key and the value pair, and it will remove it. So you have to be careful if you want to use this method. Okay. Again, difference between your pop and pop item. So pop method, it will return you only value. Okay. So I'm specifying the key which I want to remove. It will return me the value which got removed. Okay. So you can see it's returned me 60. Okay, this is just a value. Pop item will return me two things, that is key and the value pair, but as a tuple.
It will remove randomly.
Yeah.
Why we should use this?
Exactly. So ideally, the only use case I can see is if you want to free up some memory. That's the only use case, and that will be also if you are actually working in very low level programming. But actually, if you're working in web development domain or a data science domain or a servers, you don't have to go to this level that you have to manually delete the memory. Python will be.
Randomly, he just wants to pick out one element out.
Yeah, and that thing, that we can use. Yeah. So for that, actually, we have a separate random module to pick a random value. We will cover that also. All right. Again, clear and delete are exactly similar. So now if I say delete out here, do I have a dictionary? Okay, I'll get the empty dictionary. If I delete it, I cannot reference it.
Not to the method, it's
Yeah, it's a operator actually. It's a keyword. Mm, last few things. This is my dictionary. Just do not have confusion. So now I have two things, right? Key and the value pair for each element. I'm using my for loop. I'm iterating and I'm printing the value.
gives keys.
Okay. So defaultly, whenever you iterate over your dictionary using normal variable name, you are actually iterating over your keys only. Okay? If I want a value here, what should I write?
Yes. No, yes.
Or you can say t dot get of x. Okay. I have this dictionaries and I have these three methods. Any guesses from names? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Output as a tuple.
Okay. D dot keys, I will get list of all keys. Values, D dots, I'll get list of all the values. D dot items, I will get all key and the value pair inside a list, and each key and the value pair will be a tuple. Okay. So these three methods you also can use for iteration. If I want only values, I can say d dot values. So this d dot keys is actually similar to just specifying the for x in d. If you want both things separately, I'll say d dot items. Now I'll get two values. So this thing I can accept into two separate values if I want to, and I can directly use it. Okay. Important thing, never go for this. Okay. Problem is in dictionary you can always get your values from your keys. Okay. But let's say my requirement is from this, so I want to fetch a particular, let's take example. Okay. Physics 70, chemistry, let's see, 25, maths, let's see, 35. Okay. So my pass marks are 40. Okay. I have to check if the marks are, so if the values are less than pass marks or not. If it's less than that, I need to print the name of the subject. Okay. Now if I approach this problem by considering values, okay, I say d dot value because I need to compare the values, right? So I'll say if value is less than pass marks,
we cannot find the
so now I'm stuck here. Okay, so now I can print the value. Okay, the marks are less than this, but my intention that I want to get this key from it. Okay, so which thing I cannot use. So while iterating, never use this d dot value. If you want value, if you directly iterate over keys, you can easily reach to your values. But only values should be avoided. So either you can do like this. Now I'm getting value, but this time now I'll get only key, right? If I'm iterating for D, it will defaultly in this iteration I'll get only key. What should I write here?
B of E.
Okay. If less than that, what I need to say? Print. That's it. Okay. Or you can say key dot items. Just accept this as key comma value. Here we can directly compare now value. If not, then print key. Okay. I have this list. From this list, I want a dictionary. Okay. Considering this as a keys. Okay. So it will create so this it will consider this list as a keys. So all keys will be here. Default value will be set to none. If you want to specify the default value, okay. But again here I can set only one default value. Okay. Now I have two lists. On this two lists, I want to create a dictionary. Okay, so I will say something like this. Set of icon zip. Okay. Now let's discuss more about this zip first. Okay. So this zip is not related to dictionaries only. So let's say I have multiple lists. So this zip will actually return me a zip object. Okay, so it will be an object of this class zip. Just to see the output. So this is a iterable object, but just to see the output, I'm typecasting it to form a list. Okay. So this is like all elements having same index will be first element in your tuple. Okay, so 1, 1, 10,000, 2, 4, 20, 4, 2,000, 3, 9, 30, 3,000.
Even in this case, you have to typecast into dictionary.
Yeah, that's what I did. So it's like you are converting your columns into rows. Okay. Or you can say you are actually traversing multiple lists simultaneously. Okay. But important point here that all elements should be of same length. Okay. So here this is 3, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 4. That is the reason it will still consider only till third only. Okay, you can see this 40 and this 4,000 is not included. Okay. So it will just check till it gets the matching elements. If there is some extra element, it will simply discard it.
And they should also have same data type.
Not necessary. Okay. So concept of zip says it will just combine all the iterables. So the only requirement is the data type should be iterable. Okay. So if I have only two lists and I want to consider it as a key and the value pair, here instead of this 4 list, I am just using 2, and instead of a list, I am typecasting with a dictionary.
Dictionary.
So we have seen cases of list. Now if I have two dictionaries and I want to combine them to form one, okay,
It looks like kind of append.
extend.
D2 will remain as it is, even
The D1 will be modified. Okay. So that's all we have for the dictionaries. Okay. So this is a homework problem. Please try this. So I have a dictionary which contains, let's say, name of a cafe or a restaurant, and as a values I have some reviews. Okay. Now this is entirely a string separated by a separator. Okay. So for now, let's create 4-5 entries. As an output, I want another dictionary which will contain this name and the average review. Something like this. Okay, so few things. This is entirely a string. So even if I access the element, I am actually getting the string. Okay. So from this string, you have to extract these numbers. But if you extract it also, it will be again in the form of your string number. Okay. So on the string, you cannot perform your arithmetic operation. Okay. So you have to typecast it and you have to do those operations. Okay. So this is just a hint. So this is my input and this is the output. Okay. So we will stop here for today. Okay. I'll try to send these files by 4 or 5 o'clock. Okay. Yeah, second one also. Okay. Alright. Okay then. Thank you guys. First one.